Hi there, welcome to Just Another Dev, and today we are going to start a video on basics of Git. So we are basically going to look what is Git, how to install it, and we are going to create a small project, and we are going to see some basic commands, right? So let's get started. So what is Git, right? So if we just have to look at the definition, right? So here the definition that is provided by Google. Git is a distributed version control system that tracks changes in any set of computer files. Okay, but what do we mean by this distributed version control system? So I'll just give a quick example. What do we mean by a version control system? So let's assume uh, you have a file and you are not aware of anything like Git, right? So you are making changes into that file, or let's say you have a piece of code in this file which you are calling code 1. Okay, now you want to make some changes into this code and you want to test that, right? You are not sure that this will work or this will not work. So you go ahead, you can make the changes, but since you cannot discard this file, you will have to save it again, maybe under a different name. Let's say code 2. So on and so forth, if you are going to keep on creating multiple iterations of the same file, multiple, so to say, versions of the same file, what we are doing, we are creating uh, the same file with some changes again and again, and whatever we have kept in the past or whatever we have created in the past, we are still going to have it. We cannot throw away that piece of code, right? So after so many iterations, you might end up with n number of files, right? So let's call it code final. Yeah, so this is, if we look at it in a different way, so this is nothing but a version, right? So this is v1, this is v2, this is v3, so on and so forth. We can say this is Vn, right? Now, if I tell you that there is a software which can help you keep a track of these versions, right? So you can only have one single file. Let's just call it code, and there is something that can help you with the versions, right? There is some software that can help you with maintaining the versions, right? So these are, let's say, the versions v0, v1 till vn. Okay, so the file remains only one, but there is a software that is allowing you to look at any version in the past that you have created, right? Or basically any changes in the past that you have created. These changes, the files that we create over here, we are calling them as versions. Yeah. So this is basically what Git helps us with. Okay. So if you install Git on your software and if you initialize it on a particular folder, right? So that folder can be tracked. Okay, so whatever changes you are going to make in that folder, you can track it and you can save them at any point in time, right? And you can go back in time and see what was the change in that particular folder you did, right? So let's say you did this thing on day 1, this on day 2, something like that. So you can go back in time and see what the changes you made while keeping only one folder, right? You don't have to create multiple copies of this thing. So that's what Git helps us with. Okay, and Git comes for all the different operating systems that we have. Like it comes for Windows, it comes for Linux, it comes for Mac OS as well. Okay, so let's see how we are going to install Git, right? So in order to install Git, we'll simply go to our browser. We'll just type, okay, download Git, and the very first link that we are seeing over here, downloads. If we go here, it will show you an option that download for Mac or download for Linux or whatever operating system you are using. It will show the download option for that. Once you download it and extract it, that's all. Git will be installed on your system. Okay. In order to verify it, what we can do, we can just type git hyphen hyphen version, and here it will show you the Git version that is installed. So for me, it is 2.37.1 that is installed on my system. So this is about the installation part. Now let's see how we can create a project and how we can initialize Git for that particular project. Okay, so I'll just do one thing. I'll create a folder let's call it git demo or git tutorial. Now in this in this folder, we are going to initialize our git. Okay, so by default git doesn't know that I have to keep a track of anything. Okay, so this is an empty file. If I do an ls-l, so you will see there is nothing over here except these two hidden things. This dot and dot dot are nothing but the pointer to your previous directory, and this dot is basically your current directory itself. So this is basically empty, it doesn't contain anything. Now if I add a command, or if I initialize the command, which is git init, so what it will do, it will initialize git for us in this particular folder. And what do we mean by initialize git in this particular folder is that whatever changes we are going to make in this folder, whatever files you are going to add, or whatever files you are going to update in this folder will be tracked by git. Okay, so if I do a git init, so you see it is giving us an option, initialize empty git repository in this particular folder, and you see there is something called .git, right? So if I just do this ls-a again, you will see there is a .git created over here, right? And here you are also seeing git colon main. So this main is nothing but a branch, right? We are going to discuss the concept of branch when we are having this session on the GitHub, because branches will make more sense over there. But you can understand that it creates a branch, and this is our main branch as of now, right? So Git has been installed and we are on our main branch. Okay. Now, if I remove this folder, right, .git, you will see that it will not be tracked by Git anymore. So let's do that. Okay. See, this thing is gone. Yeah. So it is no longer getting tracked by Git. Now, let's do it again because we want to initialize Git. Okay, so we have initialized Git over here, and again it is started showing we are on the main branch. Okay, now there is something called Git status. It will tell us what is the status of the folder that is being tracked. So if I do a Git status, it will tell us these things: on branch main, no commits yet, and nothing to commit, and it is asking us to create or copy files and then use git add, which we are going to see in a while. So let's just go to this particular folder in the Visual Studio Code, and we can start making some changes over here. Okay, so let's say if I add a folder called let's call it tutorial. So this is the folder named tutorial. Let's add a file as well. Let's call it demo.js. Okay, in this file, let's just say I'll just type console.log hello world. I'll save this file, this tutorial. Let's say in this tutorial I am going to add a folder called uh, lecture 1 maybe .js. In the lecture 1 I'm just putting some random consoles. I am in lecture 1 file. Yeah, so we have made some changes into this folder, right? And now we can see that this is being tracked by Git. Okay, so if I do a Git status again, it is going to show me this message. Okay, so what it is saying, okay, you are on branch main, you don't have any commits yet, and here it has started to show that you have two untracked files. Okay, so one is demo.js and the other one is this whole folder. So this tutorial slash basically means this whole folder is untracked. Now if you want to track it, you can always add them. Okay, now Git will not by default start tracking changes that you have made, right? We'll have to explicitly add it for Git to track, right? Because not every file or not every folder that you are going to create need to be tracked by Git. For example, if you are creating any secrets folder or anything, so you may not want to track that, right? So those kind of things are not uh, kept for tracking on the Git purpose, right? So in that case, what we'll do, we'll add a git ignore file. Okay, whatever files we don't want to track, we can put them in git ignore. We'll come to that in in a few minutes. But let's see how we can start tracking these things. So if I want to track something, what I'll have to do is I'll have to do a git add, and now after git add, I can do either file name or the folder name or a simple dot. Now dot basically means current directory. Okay, so if I'm saying git add dot, then it will add everything which I have present or created in the current directory, right? So if I use dot, then it will add both of these. But let's say if I don't want to do that, if I just want to do demo.js, and if I do a git status again, then it is going to show me, okay, on branch commit, on branch main, no commits yet, changes to be committed is this new file demo.js. Okay, now this is again showing us untracked files tutorial, right? Now if I want to add it, I can either do a git add tutorial, right, or I can do a git add dot as well, so it will add it. Okay, so you see on git status, both of these are basically ready to be committed. Now, Git basically follows some pattern, not pattern, or basically a flow where the file is there. Once we add them, it comes to a staging area. Okay, so basically there is a staging area, and from the staging area, it goes to the commit. Okay, commit basically means kind of a checkpoint, right? So if you commit some change, then you can always go back to that change in the future, right? So let's say you committed a few changes and you want to see what I did on that day, then you can go back to that commit. Okay, so we'll see that as well. So what we have done here, we have added all the changes that we made, and if we do this git status, it is showing us, okay, these are the changes that have to be committed, and it is giving us this command as well if you want to unstage them, right? So I just told you, right, this is the staging state, right? So these changes are into staging part. Okay, we can use this command to unstage them as well. Unstage will basically remove them from here, and it will come up like this. Okay, so this is about how we add files, or we can basically track files, right? We can allow Git to track these files. So we did a git add dot, git add demo.js, and it started tracking these. Okay, now what I'll do, I'll have to commit these changes, right? I want to save these changes. So what I'll do a git commit -m. So this is basically the syntax, git commit, and then -m stands for message. And we always give some meaningful messages so that whenever we are checking the history, we will know that what we did, right? So we can say, okay, first commit add demo file and tutorial folder. So if I do this, it will basically commit it. Okay. Okay. So what it did, if you see the message, so it gives me this name, committer Asians Goyle, and this message, this email basically. This is not a correct email, it just pick it from the Mac. And what we can do, we can also set an username and email. Basically, when you are going to install Git, you are going to set it for yourself. So whatever commits we are going to make, it will be under that email and username. Okay. So we created a commit. Now if we do a git status, we will not see anything, right? So it is saying, okay, on branch main, nothing to commit, working tree clean. Okay. So we have committed it. So it is saying, okay, there are no more changes, no more untracked changes, so to say, uh, that I'm able to encounter, right? So everything is clean. Now let's go ahead and make some changes. Okay. So I'll do one thing in the demo.js file again. I'll add one more line, let's say. So I added this another console, another change. Now this should be available for Git to be tracked. Okay. So if I do a git status, then it is basically showing it's a modified file demo.js, right? So it is telling us, okay, on branch main, changes not staged for commit. Okay, so this change is yet to be staged, right? So if I do a git add, it will go to the staging state. Okay, and it is telling us, okay, we have modified this demo.js file. So I can add it again. If I do a git status, again it will tell us, okay, it is now in the staging state. We can unstage it using this command, and we can add a commit as well, right? So let's say if I want to commit this thing as well. So what I will do, I'll say, okay, edit demo.js file. Okay, so if I do a git status, there is nothing to be basically tracked anymore, right? Everything is basically tracked already, everything is committed, so we have a clean slate over here, right? Now I told you that we can go back in time as well, right? But before that, I'll just quickly explain this staging part and whatever we did, so that we'll understand it a little bit better. Okay. Okay, so we saw that when we were adding any file, right, when we were making changes to any file, we added demo file, we added tutorial folder. Okay, and Git was able to understand that you have made these changes. Okay, okay, these were the changes that it was able to track. Now when we did add, right, git add, when we used this command, these changes came to a state called staging, or we can call it staging area, right? So these will come over here, both of these changes. Okay, now from here we can commit them. The command that we used was git commit, right? Now when we commit these changes, these are basically stored, right? So basically what git does, git will create a unique hash, and it will add that hash id with these changes, and it will basically store them. Okay, so this is the commit that it will create. And what we can do, we can also see the commit history. Okay, so as I told you, right, we can always go back in time and we can see what changes we made. So let's see how we can do that. So the command that is used to do that is called git log. Okay, let's see that in action. Okay, now if I do a git log, so here you are going to see two commits, right? And as I told you, right, it creates two hash. It creates basically a hash ID for every commit. So if you see this, this is our commit message, and this is the hash that it created. Similarly, this is our second commit message, and this is the hash it created, right? And it basically shows the list of the commits in the reverse chronological order, right? So the latest commit comes first. Okay, so this was the latest commit. Okay, here also you see something like head and main, right? So I'll tell you what is this head, what is this I mean, main, you already know what is main, is nothing but the branch. But what is a head? I'll explain it to you in a while, but let's see how I can check this commit, right? Let's say I want to go back in time and I want to see what I did over here. So what we can do, we can copy this, and I entered Q to basically get out of that. So when I do a git log, it basically starts this long session and all, right? Not session, basically it starts to show the list of all the commits, right? And if the list is too big, you can keep on pressing enter and you will get to see all the previous commits. If you want to come out of this, you just need to press Q. Okay, so we came out of it. I've already copied that hash. Now if you see here, this is basically what the latest change that we made, right? But we want to go back in time. So what we'll do, we'll use this command git checkout, and we are going to enter the commit ID, right? Commit hash. So git checkout is basically a very versatile command. It can be used to do different things, but for now we are only going to see it uh, basically to see the see the history, right? What we did in the past, what we did in the last commit. Okay, so if I do an enter over here, okay, so you see this, right? Note switching to this thing. Okay, now it is saying you are in a detached head state. You can look around, make experimental changes and commit them. You can discard any commits you make in state without impacting. So don't worry about all these things, right? But essential thing is it is telling you that head is now at this thing, first commit. Okay, now I'll explain you what is happening as well, using some graphics as well. But what we have done, we have basically come back in time to our first commit. So if we go to our code, we don't see the second console log that we added, right? Because we are on version 1 per se, right? If we were talking in these terms, the version 1 of this first file, the version 2. So what we did, we jumped from version 2 to version 1 to see what we did, right? And this is what we did in version 1. Okay. Now, if you want to go back to the latest changes, you want to see the latest changes, what we can do, we can just do git checkout main. Okay. So now it was telling you previous head position was this. Now switch to branch main. So when we are on this main, it is basically on the latest commit. Then we are going to see this console.log appear again, right? If you want, I can show you one more time. Let's say we call it lecture2.js. Just quickly make it. I'm in lecture 2. We'll quickly commit it and we'll do a git status. I'll do a git add dot and again add another commit. Add lecture 2 file. Okay, now we have added this commit as well. If I do a git log, so it is basically showing us 3 commits now. Let's say we want to go to this commit, right? So in this commit, we did not have the lecture 2 file. So we should not be seeing it anymore. If I do a git checkout, so it is telling us head is now at this thing, and we don't see the lecture 2 file over here, right? So here it is showing because VS Code is still keeping it in some memory, but you see it is not there, right, in the tutorial folder. Okay, again, if you want to go back to the latest changes, I'll just do git checkout main. Okay, so now you will see this lecture 2 file over here. So this is basically how we can go back in time and see what changes we made. And we have not made any copies of this git tutorial, right? It is just one folder. Everything is happening over there. Git is basically tracking each and everything that we have done so far. Yeah. So now let's see what was this thing happening, like head is at this position, head is at that position. So what was that happening? Okay, so when we create a when we initialize git, right? So when we do this git init, so git init does what? It creates a branch for us. By default it will always be main or master branch. Earlier it used to be master, but I believe now it is main. They have changed the convention. Earlier it used to be called master, but now it is called main. Okay, so it will create a branch for us, which is by default main. And whenever we are making any commit to it, right? So let's say we made this commit one, C1. Okay, so this commit is going to have two things, right? There will be one thing which is called head, and the one thing which is basically the branch is itself pointing to. Okay, so this is the commit that this branch is pointing to, and this is the commit that the head is also pointing to. Okay, now when we create some changes and create another commit, let's say C2, both of them will start pointing to this C2, right? Let me change the color maybe. Okay, so we are coming to this C2, so this will basically move here, head and main. Basically the branch as well as the head is pointing to this C2 commit, right? We made another commit called C3. So the head and main will start pointing to this thing, right? So this will be the final state, right? Now when we go back in time, right? When we use this statement called checkout, get checkout followed by the hash ID, what it will do, it will detach the head, right? So what will happen now when we do a get checkout? So this head will no longer point to this C3. Remember, your branch is still pointing to this C3, but your head is no longer pointing to this C3 commit, right? So it will point to the commit that we have just check out. Let's say if we check out to this C2, so the head will point to this C2. Okay, as we have seen in the console as well, right? Whenever we used to do a checkout, right? So if we do a git checkout this, now it is telling you switching to this thing. Head is now at this thing. Yeah, so head is now at this commit. Okay, so whatever your head is pointing to, you will only see that thing. Okay, so since our head is pointing to the C2, we were only seeing what was present in this commit, right? We were not seeing lecture 3 file. Sorry, lecture, I guess it was lecture 2, which was added over here, right? So here it was not there, so you were not able to see it. We were only able to see whatever we did till commit C2. Okay, now if you want to go back to this thing, right? So the head is no longer pointing here, right? But this main, the branch that we have, is still pointing to the latest commit. That always points to the latest commit, right? So what we'll do if we do a git checkout main, what is going to happen? It will basically move this head again and point it here. So now we are on our latest commit, right? And since head and main are pointing to the same thing, it is basically going to show you something like this. If I do a git checkout main, so it is telling you switch to branch main. Okay, because head and main are at same level now. Even if we do a git log, you are going to see head is pointing to this main only. So that's mostly about it, right? So we have understood basically the essence of Git, why we are going to use it, how we can install Git, how we can initialize it using Git init. We can basically check the status of Git at any point of time. We can use Git status. If you want to add any file, we can do a Git add. If we want to commit that changes, we can do a Git commit, right? But basically followed by the message. Yeah, so these are the commands. One more command that we have, sorry, two more commands that we have seen is git log. Basically lets you check the history, and the other one is git checkout. Okay, so one time checkout, as I said, it's a command that can take many arguments. You can use it for many different things. So we were providing it hash ID to basically go to the past commits that we have created. Also we use the branch name as well, right? To basically go to the latest commit in that particular branch. Okay, so these are the things that we have used right now, and there are many other git commands. Like there are around 20, 50, or maybe I don't know how many git commands are there, but those are like we don't use them very often. But these are basically the very basic commands, and these are like enough to get you started with, right? We are going to cover more complex git commands and use cases in the upcoming sessions, but for now this is what we are going to have, right? And we are going to basically have another session on GitHub in the next video, where we are going to see how we can collaborate with other people. So whatever we have learned today is basically it is fine when you are only working on your project, right? When you are the only person who is working, so you can maintain the history, you can do whatever you want, you can go back in time, you can commit new changes, everything is fine. But when your project is growing, you want other people to collaborate, and they might not be with you, they might be working from a different city or something, right? So how you are going to collaborate with them? So that's where GitHub helps, right? So we are going to cover that in the next session. So stay tuned. Thank you.